The bass pounded through the walls of Obsidian, the city's most exclusive nightclub, as I shoved my way through the crowd toward the bar. My feet ached in borrowed heels, my fake smile had worn thin an hour ago, and I was seriously regretting letting my coworker Jenna drag me out tonight. "Come on, Ava, you need to get out more," she'd said. "You can't spend every Friday night at home with a book and your cat." Mr. Whiskers was better company than most of the people here, I thought sorely as someone's drink sloshed dangerously close to my dress. The crowd was thick with bodies pressed together, cologne and perfume, mixing with the smell of expensive alcohol and desperation. I finally reached the bar, squeezing into a small space between two groups of people who seemed determined to ignore the concept of personal space. The bartender, a woman with purple hair and multiple piercings, caught my eye. "Vodka soda." I called over the music. "Make it a double." If I was going to survive this night, I'd need liquid courage. Or at least enough alcohol to make the pounding music and grinding bodies tolerable. While I waited for my drink, I pulled out my phone. 3 texts from Jenna, who disappeared with some guy 20 minutes ago, all variations of, "having fun," "don't wait up." Great. My designated friend had abandoned me, which meant I was officially free to leave as soon as I finished this drink. "Hair alone, beautiful." The voice came from behind me, too close, breath hot and alcohol soaked against my ear. I stiffened, recognizing the tone immediately. Entitled, pushy, the kind of guy who thought a few drinks gave him permission to invade personal space. "Not interested," I said clearly, not bothering to turn around. "Ow, come on, don't be like that." A hand landed on my hip, squeezing. "Let me buy you a drink. We could have fun." I grabbed his wrist and removed his hand from my body. Turning to face him, he was exactly what I expected. Mid-30s, expensive suit that couldn't hide a beer gut, wedding ring tan line visible even in the dim lighting. His eyes were glazed, his smile too wide, too confident. I said no. I kept my voice firm but not loud enough to cause a scene. "Remove your hand, back up, and leave me alone." Playing hard to get? I like that. He moved closer instead of backing away, his hand reaching for me again. That's when I felt another presence behind me. Closer than comfortable, solid and unmovably planted in my personal space. Another hand, this one larger, landed on my waist, and I'd had enough. I spun, my open palm connecting with a sharp crack against what I assumed was the second creep's face. The sound carried even over the pounding music, and I had the satisfaction of seeing genuine shock in his eyes. Before I registered what I was actually looking at, not a drunk businessman trying his luck, not even close. The man I'd just slapped was tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged on a magazine cover. If that magazine was Dangerously Handsome Men Who Could Kill You. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw darkened with stubble, and eyes so dark they appeared black in the club's lighting. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my car, the jacket fitting perfectly across shoulders that suggested serious gym time. But it was the ink I noticed next. Even in the dim lighting, I could see tattoos peeking above his collar, disappearing beneath his crisp white shirt. More visible on his hands as he slowly, deliberately, raised one to touch his reddening cheek where my palm had connected. And then there were the 3 men who'd materialized around him, all wearing similar expensive suits, all with the same dangerous edge. Bodyguards. This man had bodyguards. "Oh shit," the drunk businessman behind me muttered, and when I glanced back, he was already disappearing into the crowd like smoke. The man I'd slapped studied me with unnerving intensity, his head tilted slightly as if I were a puzzle he was trying to solve. Then his lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Too predatory for that. Do that again," he said, his voice a low rumble that I felt in my chest despite the pounding music. "I dare you." My heart hammered against my ribs. Every survival instinct screamed at me to apologize, to back down, to run. But I'd spent 26 years learning not to back down from men who tried to intimidate me, and I wasn't about to start now. "Then keep your hands to yourself," I shot back, proud when my voice came out steady. "I don't care how expensive your suit is or how many bodyguards you have. You don't touch me without permission." Something flickered in his dark eyes. Surprise, maybe, or respect. One of his bodyguards stepped forward, but the man raised a hand, stopping him without looking away from me. You think I'm just another drunk asshole trying his luck? His voice held amusement now, dark and dangerous. Aren't you? I crossed my arms, channeling false bravado to cover my racing pulse. Your hand was on my waist without invitation. I was stopping you from stepping backward into a spilled drink, he said, gesturing behind me. I glanced down and, sure enough, there was a puddle of what looked like a spilled Cosmopolitan right where I would have stepped if I'd continued backing away from the drunk businessman. My cheeks heated, but I refused to back down completely. You could have used words, I said. Like excuse me, or watch out. I could have. He stepped closer, and I had to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. But then I wouldn't have had the pleasure of being slapped by the most interesting woman in this club. Interesting? I raised an eyebrow. Is that what we're calling assault now? You assaulted me, he pointed out, amusement clear in his voice now. I was simply trying to help. Guilt warred with stubbornness. He was right. I'd hit him based on an assumption, and I'd been wrong. But admitting that felt like weakness, especially with his bodyguards watching our exchange with expressions ranging from shocked to entertained. Fine, I said stiffly. I apologize for slapping you. Thank you for preventing me from stepping in a drink. Are we done here? Not even close. He gestured to the bartender, who appeared immediately with the kind of deference that suggested he was a regular, and an important one. Vodka soda for the lady, and I'll have my usual. I can buy my own drinks? I protested. Consider it an apology for startling you. He accepted a tumbler of what looked like expensive whiskey from the bartender. I'm Luca, by the way. Luca Moretti. He said his name like it should mean something to me. When I didn't react, his lips twitched with what might have been amusement. And you are? Leaving, I said, but accepted the vodka soda when the bartender slid it toward me. As soon as I finished this drink. Leaving alone. His eyes tracked to where the drunk businessman had been. That man who was bothering you, he's over there now, watching. Waiting to see if you're with someone or unprotected. I followed his gaze and felt my stomach clench. Sure enough, the businessman was lingering near the edge of the dance floor, his eyes locked on me with predatory focus. I can handle myself, I said, though unease crept down my spine. You slapped the wrong man? Luca observed. What happens when you try to slap the right one, and he doesn't take it as well as I did? Are you trying to scare me into accepting your protection? I took a sip of my drink, needing something to do with my hands. Because that's pretty manipulative. I'm trying to make sure you get home safely. He leaned against the bar, close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine with hints of cedar and spice. You came with a friend who abandoned you. You're clearly uncomfortable in this environment, and there's a drunk asshole waiting for an opportunity to get you alone. Everything he said was true, which only annoyed me more. And what do you get out of this night, in shining armor routine? Your name would be a start. Those dark eyes held mine. And maybe the chance to buy you dinner to apologize properly for startling you. You want to take me to dinner? I couldn't keep the skepticism out of my voice. After I slapped you in front of your friends? Especially because of that. He smiled, and it transformed his face from dangerously handsome to absolutely devastating. You're the first woman in years who's treated me like a man instead of a title. That's refreshing. Title. Before I could ask what he meant, one of his bodyguards leaned close and whispered something in his ear. Luca's expression hardened slightly, and he nodded. I have business to attend to, he said, finishing his whiskey in one smooth motion. But I'm not leaving you here alone with that predator circling. Marco, he gestured to one of his bodyguards, a tall man with a scar running along his jaw, will make sure you get home safely. I don't need a babysitter. It's not negotiable. The command in his voice was absolute, and I got a glimpse of whatever had made his name carry weight. You can accept Marco's escort graciously, or I can personally ensure your safety, your choice. The idea of Luca personally escorting me home sent dangerous heat through my body, which was exactly why I should accept Marco instead. Fine, I said. Marco can drive me home. Smart choice. Luca pulled out a business card, heavy stock, minimalist design, and handed it to me. Call me tomorrow. For dinner. What makes you think I will? Because you're curious. He leaned close enough that his breath whispered against my ear. Because you felt the same thing I did when our eyes met. And because turning down an opportunity is something you'll regret. Then he was gone, moving through the crowd with his remaining bodyguards, like a hot knife through butter. People stepped aside without seeming to realize they were doing it, giving him space with the unconscious deference reserved for predators. Miss. Marco's voice pulled my attention back. Up close. He was even more intimidating. Built like a tank with cold eyes that missed nothing. I'll walk you out whenever you're ready. I downed the rest of my vodka soda, needing the liquid courage. I'm ready now. The walk through the club to the exit was surreal. With Marco at my side, the crowd parted just as it had for Luca. The drunk businessman who'd been watching me earlier took one look at Marco and disappeared into the mass of bodies. Outside, the night air was crisp and cold, a relief after the suffocating heat of the club. A black SUV with tinted windows idled at the curb, and Marco opened the back door for me. I can take a cab, I protested weakly. Mr. Moretti's orders, miss. Marco's expression remained neutral. Where would you like to go? I gave him my address, a modest apartment in a decent neighborhood, and slid into the back seat. The interior was all black leather and tinted windows, far nicer than any vehicle I'd ever been in. Marco drove in silence, and I took the opportunity to look at the business card Luca had given me. Simple white stock, black lettering. Just a name, Luca Moretti, and a phone number. No business name, no title, nothing to explain who he was or what he did. But the weight of that card in my hand felt significant. Like I was holding something dangerous. We pulled up in front of my building far too quickly. Marco got out and opened my door, scanning the street with professional efficiency before allowing me to exit. Thank you for the ride, I said, suddenly awkward. My pleasure, miss. He handed me another card, his own, I realized. If you need anything or feel unsafe, call that number. Someone will come immediately. Why would I need that? A mixture. Moretti takes the safety of those under his protection very seriously. Marco's expression remained neutral. You slapped him. That makes you memorable, and in our world, memorable can be dangerous. Our world. What world was that exactly? Who is he? I had to ask. Luca Moretti. That name. The way people reacted to him, the bodyguards. Who is he really? Marco studied me for a long moment. That's a question you should ask him yourself, miss. Good night. He got back in the SUV and drove away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with 2 business cards and more questions than answers. Inside my apartment, Mr. Whiskers greeted me with indignant meows about his delayed dinner. I fed him, changed into comfortable pajamas, and tried to process the insanity of my evening. I'd slapped a man who clearly wielded significant power. A man who'd looked at me like I was fascinating rather than annoying. A man who wanted to take me to dinner. The smart thing would be to throw away his card and forget this ever happened. To go back to my quiet life of books and cats and safety. But as I lay in bed, staring at Luca's business card on my nightstand, I knew I wasn't going to do the smart thing. I was going to call him. I made it until noon the next day before my curiosity won. Saturday morning had been spent in my usual routine. Coffee, scrambled eggs, and catching up on reading for my online marketing courses. I'd been working as a freelance social media manager for the past 2 years, which meant I could work from home in my pajamas and avoid most human interaction. Perfect for an introvert like me, but Luca's business card sat on my coffee table like a live grenade, impossible to ignore. Around 11, my phone rang. Jenna, finally checking in after abandoning me last night. Oh my God, Ava, I'm so sorry. She gushed before I could even say hello. Marcus and I ended up at this amazing rooftop bar, and I completely lost track of time. Did you get home okay? I'm fine, I said, tucking the phone between my ear and shoulder as I poured more coffee. Though you left me alone in a club full of drunk handsy men, so thanks for that. I know I'm the worst friend ever. She paused. Wait, did something happen? You sound weird. I debated not telling her. But Jenna had been my best friend since college, and she had a way of extracting information like a skilled interrogator. I may have slapped someone. You moo hat. Her shriek nearly deafened me. Ava Chen, explain right now. So I told her about the drunk businessman. About thinking Luca was another creep. About the slap and the aftermath. I left out the part about how Luca's dark eyes had made my stomach flip. How his voice had sent shivers down my spine, how I'd spent half the night replaying our interaction. Holy shit. Jenna breathed when I finished. You slapped Luca Moretti. Do you have any idea who he is? My stomach dropped. Should I? Ava, he's like one of the most powerful men in the city. His family has connections to everything. Real estate, restaurants, construction. There are rumors about other businesses too, less legal ones, but nobody talks about that openly. She paused. And you slapped him. In public. In front of his men. He startled me. I defended weakly. And how was I supposed to know who he was? He didn't exactly introduce himself with his criminal resume. Criminal is a strong word. Nobody's ever proven anything. Jenna's voice dropped to a whisper like someone might be listening. But Ava, men like that, they don't just let things go. You embarrassed him. He didn't seem embarrassed. He seemed amused. I picked up his business card, running my thumb over the embossed lettering. He wants to take me to dinner. Silence. Then, are you insane? You can't go to dinner with Luca Moretti. Why not? Even as I asked, I knew she was probably right. Because men like that are dangerous, Ava. They live in a different world, play by different rules. You're a freelance social media manager who spends Friday nights reading Jane Austen to her cat. You don't belong in his world. I know that. I said quietly. But what if I want to see that world? Just for one night. Then you're braver than I thought. Or stupider. I haven't decided which yet. Jenna sighed. If you're really going to do this, at least be smart about it. Public place, tell someone where you're going. Keep your phone on you at all times. I haven't even decided if I'm calling him yet. Ava, we both know you're going to call him. You've already talked yourself into it. She knew me too well. Just promise me you'll be careful. And text me before, during, and after this dinner so I know you're alive. After we hung up, I stared at the business card for another solid 10 minutes. Then, before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed the number. He answered on the second ring. I was beginning to think you wouldn't call. No greeting, no pretense that he didn't know who was calling. His voice was just as devastating over the phone as it had been in person, deep, confident, with that hint of accent I couldn't quite place. I'm calling to tell you dinner is unnecessary, I said, proud of how steady my voice sounded. Consider your apology accepted. Ava Chen. He said my name like he was tasting it. You Googled me. I didn't have to. My friend filled me in. I moved to the window looking out at my quiet neighborhood street. She says you're dangerous. I am. No denial, no softening. Does that scare you? It chilled. I traced a pattern on the glass. But honestly, I'm more annoyed that you didn't tell me who you were last night. Would it have changed anything? Genuine curiosity colored his tone. If I'd introduced myself with my full credentials, would you still have slapped me? I considered that. Probably not, which would have been a shame. Because apparently you needed it. His laugh was low and rich, vibrating through the phone. You're the only person in this city who would say that to my face. Or to my voice, as the case may be. Then everyone else is either scared of you or wants something from you. I settled onto my couch, Mr. Whiskers immediately jumping into my lap. Which one am I? Neither. You're interesting. He paused, and I heard voices in the background before a door closed, muffling the sound. Dinner. Tonight. I'll pick you up at 7. That's not how asking someone out works, I protested. You're supposed to phrase it as a question, not a command. Would you like to have dinner with me tonight, Ava? His tone suggested he was humoring me. 7 o'clock. Wear something nice. What if I have plans? Do you? I looked at Mr. Whiskers, who stared back with judgment in his green eyes. No, I admitted, but you can't just assume. 7 o'clock, he repeated. I'll text you when I'm outside. And Ava? Yes. I'm glad you called. He hung up before I could respond, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. Had I just agreed to dinner with a possibly criminal businessman? Choosing arrangements, a man who commanded enough respect that people literally moved out of his way. A man who looked at me like I was something fascinating and dangerous in equal measure.
Yes. Yes.
I had. I spent the next 6 hours guessing my life choices while simultaneously tearing through my closet looking for something appropriate to wear. Everything I owned was casual or work appropriate, nothing suitable for dinner with a man who probably ate at restaurants that required reservations months in advance. Finally, I settled on a simple black dress I'd bought for my cousin's wedding last year. Fitted but not tight, ending just above my knees, with a modest neckline. I paired it with my only pair of heels that didn't make me want to cry after an hour and kept my makeup simple. Just enough to look polished without appearing like I'd tried too hard. At 6:55, my phone buzzed. Outside, I looked out my window and felt my jaw drop. A sleek black car, definitely not the SUV from last night. Something lower and more expensive, idled at the curb. As I watched, Luca emerged from the driver's side. He wore dark slacks and a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing those tantalizing glimpses of ink on his forearms. Even from 3 floors up, he looked devastating. My phone buzzed again. I don't bite, usually. Despite my nerves, I smiled. I grabbed my purse, gave Mr. Whiskers fresh water, and headed downstairs before I could overthink this anymore. Luca was leaning against his car when I emerged, and the way his eyes tracked my approach made heat pool in my belly. He straightened as I reached him, and I was once again struck by how tall he was, how powerfully built beneath those expensive clothes. "You look beautiful," he said simply, and something about the directness of it made me blush. "You look dangerous," I replied, earning that devastating smile. "I am dangerous." He opened the passenger door for me, but not to you. The car's interior was all leather and technology, the kind of vehicle I'd only seen in magazines. I buckled in as Luca rounded to the driver's side, and tried not to think about how small the space felt with both of us in it. "Where are we going?" I asked as he pulled smoothly into traffic. "Giordano's. It's a small Italian place in the North End. Best food in the city, but you won't find it on Yelp." "Let me guess, you own it?" "My uncle does." He glanced at me, amusement in his dark eyes. "You're nervous." "I'm sitting in a car with a man I assaulted last night," I pointed out. "A man who apparently has enough power that people are afraid to even talk about what he really does." "So yes, smart." He navigated through traffic with easy confidence. "But unnecessary. I told you I'm not dangerous to you." "Why not?" I had to ask. "Why me?" "You could have any woman in that club last night. Probably any woman in this city. So why pursue the one who slapped you?" He was quiet for a long moment, and I wondered if I'd overstepped. Then, because every other woman in that club looked at me and saw my reputation, my power, my money. You looked at me and saw a man who needed to be put in his place. That's rare. Valuable. So this is about your ego. I couldn't keep the disappointment out of my voice. You want to conquer the one woman who wasn't impressed. No. His hand reached across the center console, finding mine where it rested on my thigh. The contact sent electricity up my arm. This is about finding someone who isn't afraid to challenge me. Someone who treats me like a man instead of a title. I haven't had that in longer than I care to admit. His honesty disarmed me. "What happened to your last relationship?" "She died." The words were flat, emotionless, but I heard the pain beneath. "Cancer. 3 years ago. Since then, it's been easier to keep things casual, surface level. Until last night." "I'm sorry," I said softly, turning my hand over so our fingers intertwined. "That must have been devastating." "It was." He squeezed my hand gently. "But life goes on. And last night, for the first time in 3 years, I met someone who made me want to try again." The weight of that admission settled over us as we drove through the city streets. Reese wasn't just dinner. This was Luca taking a chance, letting someone in after years of keeping everyone at arm's length. And I was terrified I wasn't enough to justify that risk. Giordano's was exactly as he'd described it. A small storefront tucked between 2 larger buildings, easy to miss unless you knew where to look. The interior was intimate, maybe 10 tables total, with warm lighting and the smell of garlic and fresh bread. An older man with silver hair and a wide smile appeared the moment we walked in. "Luca!" "Ci troppo tempo." He pulled Luca into an embrace before turning to me with bright eyes. "And who is this bellissima donna?" "Uncle Giovanni, this is Ava Chen." "Ava, my uncle, who makes the best carbonara you've ever tasted." Flattery. But Giovanni was beaming. Come. I have the perfect table for you." He led us to a corner booth, private and quiet, with a view of the small kitchen where I could see chefs working over open flames. Wine appeared without us ordering, rich and red and probably worth more than my rent. So, I said once we were alone, is this where you seduce me with expensive wine and your uncle's carbonara? Is it working? Luca's smile was wicked. Ask me after I've tried the carbonara. The carbonara was, objectively, the best thing I'd ever tasted. Creamy, rich, with perfectly cooked pasta and generous amounts of pancetta. I may have actually moaned on the first bite, which earned me a look from Luca that made heat pool in places I was trying very hard to ignore. Told you, he said, his own plate barely touched as he watched me eat. Uncle Giovanni is a master. Why aren't you eating? I asked around another heavenly bite. I'm enjoying watching you. His dark eyes tracked the movement of my fork to my mouth. You eat like someone who actually enjoys food, not someone who sees it as fuel or something to be controlled. I'm a stress eater, I admitted. And between freelancing and trying to build my business, there's a lot of stress. Hence the love affair with carbs. What kind of business are you building? I hadn't expected him to actually be interested in my work. Most men's eyes glazed over when I started talking about social media algorithms and content strategy. But Luca leaned forward, genuine curiosity in his expression. Social media management, mostly for small businesses and startups. I help them build their online presence, engage with customers, create content that actually converts. I set down my fork. It's not glamorous, but I like helping people tell their stories. That's not nothing. His hand reached across the table, fingers tracing lazy patterns on my wrist. Building something from nothing, being your own boss, that takes courage. Says the man who probably inherited an empire. I did. No shame in his admission. My father built what we have now, and I inherited it when he died. But inheriting isn't the same as earning, Ava. Every day I have to prove I deserve this position, that I'm not just riding on my father's reputation. Is that hard? Living up to his legacy. Sometimes. He took a sip of wine. He was brilliant but ruthless, and made enemies as easily as allies. And now I'm stuck navigating relationships he built, cleaning up messes he left behind. That why you have bodyguards? Because of enemies. Partially. His expression darkened slightly. In my line of work, you make enemies whether you want to or not. Territory disputes, business disagreements, old grudges. It's easier to prevent problems than deal with them after the fact. Your line of work being, too careful, Ava, but there was amusement in his warning. That's a dangerous question to ask. I'm having dinner with a dangerous man. I pointed out, might as well know what I'm getting into. He studied me for a long moment, weighing something I couldn't see. My family owns legitimate businesses, restaurants, construction companies, real estate. But we also have interests in areas that operate in gray zones. Import-export with flexible customs arrangements. Security services that sometimes handle problems the police can't or won't. Money lending with interest rates that banks wouldn't approve. So loan sharking and smuggling. I kept my voice neutral, not judging, just clarifying. Among other things, he didn't flinch from the truth. I'm not a good man by society's standards, Ava. I've done things that would horrify most people. Hurt people who threatened my family or my business. Made choices that keep me awake some nights. Have you killed anyone? The question emerged before I could stop it. Yes. No hesitation. Does that scare you? It should have. I should have been running for the door, calling a cab, blocking his number. Instead, I found myself asking, did they deserve it? I thought so at the time. His thumb continued its maddening circle on my wrist. 3 men who came after my younger sister. They thought attacking her would give them leverage over me. They were wrong. The protective fierceness in his voice sent a shiver down my spine. You love your sister. More than anything. His expression softened. She's a doctor now, works with underprivileged kids in the free clinic she opened last year. Everything I do, all the gray zone businesses and flexible morality, it's to protect people like her. To give them the freedom to be good in a world that isn't always kind to goodness. The complexity of him was dizzying. Criminal and protector, ruthless and loving, dangerous and oddly gentle with me. Why are you telling me all this? I asked. Wouldn't it be smarter to lie? To let me think you're just a legitimate businessman? Because you asked. He released my wrist, leaning back in his seat. And because I don't want there to be lies between us, Ava. If this is going to be something, it needs to be built on honesty, even ugly honesty. If this is going to be something, I repeated. That's presumptuous. This is our first date. Is it? His smile was knowing. Feels like more than that. Felt like more than that the moment you slapped me and looked at me, like I was just a man who'd crossed a line. Not someone to fear. He was right, damn him. This did feel like more than a first date. It felt like something inevitable, like we'd been circling each other for years and were only now finding the courage to collide. What do you want from me? I asked quietly. Really want? Honestly, I don't know yet. He signaled for the check, which Giovanni brought immediately with a knowing smile. I know I want to see you again. Want to learn what makes you laugh, what makes you angry, what you dream about at 3 a.m. when you can't sleep. That's very specific. I'm a very specific man. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, there's somewhere I want to take you. I should have insisted he take me home. Should have maintained boundaries, kept things slow and safe. Instead, I took his hand and let him lead me out of the restaurant. The somewhere turned out to be the waterfront. Luca parked overlooking the harbor, where boats bobbed gently in their slips and the city lights reflected off dark water. He killed the engine but made no move to exit the car. I used to come here with my father, he said, staring out at the water. Before he died. We'd sit just like this, and he'd tell me about the business. About what I'd need to know to survive in this world. How old were you when he died? 23. Old enough to understand what I was inheriting. Young enough to be terrified I'd fail. His hands gripped the steering wheel. He was shot in our driveway. Rival family thought they could take our territory if they eliminated him. They were wrong. What happened to them? Nothing good. The coldness in his voice made me shiver. I made sure everyone understood that attacking my family had consequences. It took a year to fully consolidate power, but by the time I was done, no one questioned whether I was my father's son. That must have been lonely. Being that ruthless that young. He turned to look at me, surprise clear in his dark eyes. That's what you take from that story. Not that I'm dangerous, not that I'm capable of violence. That it must have been lonely. Violence I already knew about. I shifted to face him fully. But being alone, having to be that strong that early, sacrificing the chance to just be a normal 20-something. That's sadder than the violence. You're unexpected, Ava Chen. His hand came up to cup my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. Everything about you is unexpected. Is that good or bad? It's perfect. Then he was kissing me. The kiss was nothing like our interaction at the club. No performance, no audience, just raw connection. His lips were firm against mine, demanding but not aggressive, taking but also giving. I melted into him, my hands finding their way to his chest, feeling the hard muscle beneath expensive fabric. He tasted like wine and something darker, something uniquely him. His hand in my hair tilted my head to deepen the kiss, his tongue sweeping into my mouth with skilled precision that made my toes curl. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard, the car's interior suddenly too small, too hot. That was... I couldn't finish the sentence, my brain scrambled by the kiss. Yeah. His forehead rested against mine. Iva, I need you to understand something. This thing between us, it's moving fast. Probably too fast. But I can't seem to slow down. And I won't apologize for that. I don't want you to slow down. The admission emerged before I could think better of it. I've spent my whole life being careful, being safe. Maybe I want to be reckless for once. Reckless with me could be dangerous. But his hand was tracing down my side, possessive and warm. My world isn't safe, Ava. Getting involved with me means accepting risks you probably can't even imagine yet. Then help me imagine them. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. What are the actual risks? What happens if people know I'm... What? Dating you? Seeing you? What do we even call this? Mine. The word was a growl, possessive and absolute. You're mine. And that means you become a potential target for anyone who wants to hurt me. It means security measures. Means being careful about where you go and who you talk to. Means accepting that I'll always be a little bit dangerous. A little bit violent when it comes to protecting what's mine. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it sent heat flooding through my body. And what do I get in return for accepting all that? Everything. His hand slid into my hair again. My protection, my resources, me. All of it. I don't do things halfway, Ava. If you're mine, then I'm yours too. Completely. That's a lot of pressure for a first date. Then we'll call it the second date. His lips curved. The first was when you slapped me. This is date number 2. By date 3, you'll be completely addicted to me. Arrogant. Honest. He kissed me again, softer this time. Stay with me tonight, not for sex. He added quickly when I tensed. Just stay. Let me hold you, talk to you, learn you. No pressure. No expectations beyond your company. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this was too much too soon. But the part that had felt alive for the first time in years when he'd kissed me, that part won. Okay? I heard myself say, but I need to feed my cat in the morning. His laugh was low and rich. I'll have someone deliver food to Mr. Whiskers. How do you know my cat's name? I know everything about you, Iva. He started the car. Your address, your work history, your credit score. I ran a background check the moment Marco dropped you off last night. That's borderline stalking. That's due diligence. He pulled onto the road. I protect what's mine. Can't do that without information. I'm not yours yet. I protested weakly. Yes, you are. His hand found my thigh, warm and possessive. You just haven't fully accepted it yet. But you will. His penthouse was in a building I'd walked past 100 times, but never imagined entering. The lobby alone was more luxurious than most apartments, all marble and modern art, and a concierge who greeted Luca by name. The elevator required a keycard to access the penthouse level. Of course it did. Ready? Luca asked, his hand on my lower back as the doors opened directly into his apartment. No, I thought. But also yes. Absolutely yes. Luca's penthouse was everything I expected and nothing I was prepared for. Floor. Tit-ceiling windows revealed the city sprawling below like a constellation of lights. The space was masculine but not cold. Dark leather furniture, rich wood accents, artwork that looked expensive and original. But it was the details that caught my attention. Books stacked on side tables, a well-worn guitar in the corner, photographs in simple frames showing people who had to be his family. This is beautiful, I said, moving toward the windows. And terrifying. How high up are we? 42nd floor. He shrugged out of his jacket, draping it over a chair. Does heights bother you? Only when I remember I'm standing on a thin piece of glass 2 stories above the ground. I pressed my palm against the window, cool against my skin. But the view is worth the terror. Agreed. But when I glanced back, he wasn't looking at the city. He was looking at me. Heat flooded my cheeks. You're staring. I'm appreciating. He moved closer, and I was reminded again of how tall he was, how powerfully built. Can I get you something to drink? Wine, water? Coffee. Water is fine. I needed to keep my head clear, not muddle it further with alcohol. He disappeared into what I assumed was the kitchen, returning moments later with 2 glasses of water. I accepted mine, grateful for something to do with my hands. So, I said, moving to the leather sofa because standing was making my feet ache in these heels. You said you wanted to talk, to learn me. What do you want to know? Everything. He sat beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. Start with why you live alone with a cat instead of with friends or a partner. Direct question? I don't do subtle. His arm stretched along the back of the sofa, not quite touching me but close enough to be aware of. And we've already established this is moving fast. Might as well skip the small talk. Fair enough. I had a serious boyfriend in college. We dated for 3 years, lived together for 1. I thought we'd get married, have the whole suburban dream. I took a sip of water. Then I found out he'd been cheating on me for the last 8 months with his teaching assistant. When I confronted him, he said I was boring, predictable, that being with me was like dating a librarian. Idiot. Luca's voice was flat. Anyone who doesn't appreciate intelligence and stability is a fool. Maybe. But it stuck with me. The boring part. I set down my glass. After we broke up, I realized he was right in a way. I'd spent my whole life being safe, following rules, never taking risks. So I decided to change that. Moved to a new city, started my own business, adopted Mr. Whiskers. Tried to become someone interesting. You don't need to try. His hand found mine, fingers intertwining. You're already the most interesting woman I've met in years. You barely know me. I know you slapped a man in front of his bodyguards without knowing who he was. I know you called me today despite your friend warning you I was dangerous. I know you're sitting in my penthouse right now, which means you're either very brave or very foolish. His thumb traced circles on the back of my hand. And I know that when I kiss you, you kiss back like you're starving for it, my breath caught. That's very observant. I'm a very observant man. He shifted closer, his free hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind my ear. Your turn. What do you want to know about me? Everything, I thought. But I settled on, tell me about your family. You mentioned a sister. His expression softened immediately. Isabella. She's 28, brilliant, and far too good for the family she was born into. She wanted nothing to do with the business, so I made sure she didn't have to be. Put her through medical school, set her up with the clinic, keep her protected but separate from everything else. That's not what I expected. What did you expect? I don't know. That you'd want everyone in the family involved, loyal to the business. I leaned into his touch despite myself. Not that you'd actively keep someone out. The business isn't for everyone. His hand cupped my face now, thumb tracing my cheekbone. Isabella has a gift for healing. Why would I waste that by dragging her into violence and moral compromise? Better to let her be the good Moretti. God knows the family needs one. You love her very much. More than anything. His dark eyes held mine. She's the reason I'm careful about who I let into my life. Ava? Anyone I'm involved with becomes a potential threat to her. If someone wanted to hurt me, Isabella would be an obvious target. Understanding dawned. That's why you ran a background check on me. You're not just protecting yourself. I'm protecting everyone I care about. His forehead pressed against mine. Which now includes you. The moment I decided I wanted this, wanted you, you became someone I need to keep safe, even if that means protecting you from aspects of my own world. That's a lot of responsibility. I'm used to responsibility. His lips brushed mine, feather light. Question is, are you ready to accept being protected? Because I won't compromise on your safety, Ava. Not even if you ask me to. The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel cherished, valued in a way I'd never experienced. What does protection look like, practically speaking? For now, just being smart. Not going places alone late at night, letting me know where you are. Accepting rides from Marco or my other men when I'm not available. He pulled back slightly to meet my eyes. Eventually, if this continues, you might need a more permanent security presence. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And if I want my independence, want to be able to go to the grocery store without checking in with your security team. Then we compromise. His hand slid to the back of my neck, fingers tangling in my hair. I'm not trying to control you, Ava. I'm trying to keep you alive. There's a difference, is there? I challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like control dressed up as protection. Fair point. He didn't get defensive, which surprised me. How about this? I'll explain the actual risks, give you real information, and then we make security decisions together. You're not a child who needs to be protected from knowledge. You're an adult who deserves to understand what she's accepting. The respect in his offer did something to me. Okay, so what are the actual risks? Right now, minimal. You're new, unknown. Most of my enemies don't even know you exist yet. He settled back against the sofa, pulling me with him until I was tucked against his side. But once people know you're mine, once they understand you matter to me, you become leverage, someone who could be threatened, kidnapped, hurt to get to me. That's terrifying. It's reality. His arm tightened around me. But it's also manageable. I have security systems, trained men, protocols in place. No one gets to you without going through multiple layers of protection first. Have you had to protect people before? Others you've been involved with? 1. His voice went flat. My late fiancée, Maria. She died 3 years ago, but not because of the business. Cancer, like I said. But before she got sick, yes, there were threats. Attempts to use her against me. We dealt with them. How? Permanently. No apology in his tone. Anyone who threatened Maria learned very quickly that I don't forgive and I don't forget. After the first few examples, people stopped trying. The casual mention of violence should have horrified me. Instead, I found it oddly comforting. This was a man who protected what was his, who didn't back down from threats. Tell me about her, I said softly. Maria. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, She was a teacher. Elementary school, 3rd grade. Everything about her was soft and kind and good. The opposite of me in every way that mattered. How did you meet? Her school was in my territory. Some idiots thought they could deal drugs near the playground, use the kids as cover. His jaw tightened. I handled it personally. She saw me afterward, blood on my knuckles, fury in my eyes. And instead of being afraid, she thanked me. Said those kids deserved to be safe, that sometimes violence was the only language certain people understood. She sounds remarkable. She was. His hand stroked down my arm absently. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. She knew what I was, what I did, and she accepted it, loved me anyway. When she got sick, I threw everything I had at it, the best doctors, experimental treatments, anything that might save her. Nothing worked. I'm sorry. I pressed closer, offering what comfort I could. Losing someone you love like that, it must have been devastating. It was. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. For a long time after, I told myself I wouldn't let anyone that close again. Wouldn't give someone that kind of power over me. And then you slapped me in a nightclub and looked at me like I was just a man who'd crossed a line. And everything changed. I finished. And everything changed, he agreed. I don't believe in fate or destiny, Ava. But I believe in opportunity. And you're an opportunity I'm not going to waste. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, my head on his shoulder, his arm around me. The city glittered below us, millions of lives being lived, and we were just 2 people trying to figure out if this crazy connection between us was worth the risk. It's late. Luca finally said, "Let me show you the guest room." I thought you wanted me to stay in your bed. I looked up at him. I do. His eyes were dark with want. But you're not ready for that yet, and I'm not going to push. When we end up in my bed together, Iva, it's going to be because you're absolutely certain. Not because I seduced you with wine and pretty words. The respect in his restraint made me want him more, not less. But he was right. This was all moving so fast, and I needed time to process. The guest room was as luxurious as the rest of the penthouse. King-sized bed, ensuite bathroom, a view that reveled his own. He provided me with a tea, shirt to sleep in. His I realized when I put it on and it swallowed my frame. Bathroom has new toothbrushes in the drawer, he said from the doorway. And there's skincare stuff under the sink that Isabella left. Help yourself to whatever you need. You're very prepared for overnight guests. I'm prepared for everything. He moved into the room, stopping just in front of me. But for the record, I've never had a woman stay in this room before. Usually they're in mine, and they don't stay the night. Why am I different? Because you are. He kissed me slow and deep, a promise of things to come. Sleep well, Ava, I'll make breakfast in the morning. You cook? I'm full of surprises. His smile was wicked. Good night, beautiful. After he left, closing the door softly behind him, I stood in the middle of the luxurious guest room and tried to process everything that had happened. 24 hours ago, I'd been a boring freelancer with a cat. Now I was standing in a Mafia boss's penthouse, wearing his shirt, and seriously considering throwing away every ounce of common sense to see where this dangerous attraction led. I climbed into bed, the sheets impossibly soft, and stared at the ceiling. Through the walls, I could hear faint sounds of Luca moving around his own room, and I wondered if he was thinking about me the way I was thinking about him. My phone buzzed. Jenna, of course. Are you alive? Alive and in his guest room, I replied, US to Rome. What kind of gentleman criminal is he? The dangerous kind, I typed back. The kind I'm definitely going to see again. I knew it. You're already in too deep, she wasn't wrong. I woke to the smell of coffee and bacon, sunlight streaming through floor, to ceiling windows. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then the events of last night came flooding back. The dinner, the kiss at the waterfront, Luca's penthouse. I padded to the bathroom, finding everything exactly as Luca had promised. New toothbrush still in packaging, expensive skincare products that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I washed my face, brushed my teeth, and tried to tame my bedhead into something presentable. The t-shirt I'd slept in hung to mid-thigh, and I debated putting my dress back on. But the idea of squeezing into last night's clothes felt wrong somehow, so I kept the shirt on and ventured out to find Luca. He was in the kitchen, and the sight of him stopped me in my tracks. Shirtless, wearing only black sweatpants that hung low on his hips, his back to me as he worked at the stove. In the morning light, I could see his tattoos fully, intricate designs covering his shoulders and back, flowing down his arms in sleeves of ink. Religious imagery mixed with geometric patterns, Italian script wending between what looked like family crests and dates. "You're staring again," he said without turning around. "You have eyes in the back of your head. I always know when you're looking at me." He glanced over his shoulder, and his eyes darkened as they tracked down my body in his shirt. Though I appreciate the view just as much. Heat flooded my cheeks. "You said something about breakfast?" "Set." He gestured to the bar stools at the kitchen island. "Coffee's fresh, and I'm almost done with the eggs." I settled onto a stool, accepting the mug he slid toward me. "Perfectly prepared with cream, just like yesterday. You're very domestic for a crime boss." "I'm full of contradictions." He plated scrambled eggs, bacon, and toast with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "My mother made sure all her children could cook. Said a man who couldn't feed himself was useless." "Smart woman." She was. Past tense, I noted. He set a plate in front of me before preparing his own. "Died when I was 19. Heart attack, sudden and brutal. One day she was there, the next she was gone." "I'm sorry." I reached across the counter, finding his hand. "That must have been devastating." "It was the beginning of a very bad year." He squeezed my fingers before releasing them to pick up his fork. "Lost my mother in January, my father in November. By the time I turned 20, I was running an organization I barely understood with enemies circling like sharks. But you survived. More than survived." His eyes met mine. "I rebuilt what my father had broken, forged new alliances, eliminated threats, made the Moretti name mean something again. By being ruthless. By being smart." He took a bite of eggs. "Ruthless is easy. Smart ruthlessness is an art form. You don't survive in my world by being the most violent. You survive by being the most strategic." "Is that what you are? Strategic?" "Always." His gaze intensified. "Including with you. Every move I've made since you slapped me has been calculated, Ava. From sending Marco to ensure you got home safely, to having my people research your background, to this breakfast. All of it strategic." The honesty should have bothered me. Instead, I found it refreshing. "And what's your strategy with me?" "To make you mine. No hesitation. Completely, irrevocably mine. To weave myself so thoroughly into your life that the thought of being without me becomes unbearable." "That's very arrogant." "That's very honest." He stood, moving around the island to stand in front of me. "I want you, Ava. Not for a night or a week, or until the novelty wears off. I want you as a permanent fixture in my life. And I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen." My heart hammered against my ribs. What if I don't want to be anyone's permanent fixture? "Then I'll settle for temporary until I can change your mind." His hand cupped my face. "But fair warning. I'm very good at getting what I want, and I want you more than I've wanted anything in 3 years." He kissed me before I could respond, and all thoughts of protest dissolved. His lips were demanding against mine, his hand sliding into my hair to angle my head where he wanted it. I melted into him, my hands finding the hard planes of his bare chest, feeling the heat of his skin beneath my palms. When he finally pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "I should go home," I managed. "Feed Mr. Whiskers, change clothes, pretend to be a responsible adult. I already had Marco deliver food to your cat." He showed me his phone, where a text from Marco confirmed the delivery with a photo of Mr. Whiskers eating contentedly. "And I can have clothes brought here, whatever you need. You're very prepared. I told you, strategic." His thumb traced my lower lip. "But if you really want to leave, I'll take you home. No pressure. No expectations." The fact that he was giving me an out made me want to stay more. What would staying involve? Spending the day with me. "Let me show you more of my world, introduce you to people who matter to me." His eyes searched mine. "I want you to understand what you're getting into, Ava, the good and the bad, the luxury and the danger." "That sounds serious." "It is serious." He pulled back slightly. "I don't do casual, Ava. If we're going to continue this, I need you to understand exactly what being mine means. And you need to decide if you can accept it." The weight of his words settled over us. This wasn't just a fling, wasn't just exciting chemistry with a dangerous man. This was Luca offering me a real place in his life, with all the complications that entailed. Okay, I heard myself say, show me your world. His smile was devastating. Get dressed. We have people to see. And an hour later, I was in fresh clothes, jeans, and a sweater that had appeared courtesy of Marco, who apparently had excellent taste and access to my apartment key. We were in Luca's car, driving through parts of the city I'd never been to. Where are we going? I asked as we pulled into a neighborhood that looked decidedly industrial. One of my construction sites. He parked in front of a half-finished building, workers visible through the skeleton of steel beams. This is going to be a mixed-use development. Affordable housing on the lower floors, small businesses on the ground level. Affordable housing? I couldn't hide my surprise. That's not what I expected from a crime boss's portfolio. Crime boss isn't all I am. He came around to open my door. I own legitimate businesses too, Ava. This development is funded through proper channels, built to code, designed to help a neighborhood that's been neglected for decades. A man in a hard hat approached as we walked toward the site. Mr. Moretti, we weren't expecting you today. Just showing someone around, Tony. Luca's hand found my lower back. This is Ava. Iva. Tony runs this project for me. Tony's eyes widened slightly. Clearly surprised Luca was introducing someone, but he recovered quickly. Pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Would you like a tour? The tour was enlightening. Tony walked us through the plans with genuine enthusiasm, explaining how the building would provide over 100 affordable units while creating space for local businesses to thrive. Luca listened intently, asking questions, making suggestions, clearly deeply involved in the project's success. This is impressive, I said once we were back in the car. Really impressive. Why didn't you lead with this instead of all the talk about gray zone businesses? Because I wanted you to see the worst first. He pulled into traffic. I wanted you to know exactly what I'm capable of, what I've done, before showing you the better parts. That way, you can make an informed decision. That's very calculated, I told you, strategic. He glanced at me. But also honest. I won't lie to you, Ava. Not about who I am or what I do. You deserve better than pretty lies. Our next stop was a restaurant in Little Italy, smaller than Giovanni's but no less authentic. An older woman rushed out when she saw Luca, speaking rapid Italian and pulling him into an embrace. Iva, this is Mrs. Caruso. She runs the best cannoli place in the city. Luca gestured to me. Mrs. Caruso, this is Ava. She's special. Mrs. Caruso's eyes lit up with speculation and delight. Special! Finally, you bring a nice girl. Come, I make you eat. As she bustled us inside, and for the next hour, I was treated to an education in Italian pastries while Mrs. Caruso alternated between feeding me and interrogating me about my intentions with Luca. It should have been uncomfortable, but her warmth was genuine, and I found myself laughing more than I had in months. She's wonderful, I said once we were back in the car, my stomach pleasantly full of cannoli and espresso. She was my mother's best friend. Luca's expression softened. When my mother died, Mrs. Caruso stepped in. Made sure Isabella and I didn't starve, taught us to cook, kept us connected to our culture. I owe her everything. You really love your family. Family is everything in my world. He reached across the console, finding my hand. Blood family, chosen family, all of it. The people you protect, who protect you in return. That's what matters. Is that what I am? Chosen family. You're becoming that, yes. His thumb traced circles on my palm. Every hour I spend with you, every conversation we have, you're weaving yourself deeper into my life. Soon, you'll be as essential as breathing. That's intense. I'm an intense man. He pulled up in front of a building I didn't recognize. One more stop, then I'll take you home if you want. This building was clearly residential, upscale but not ostentatious. Luca led me inside and up to the third floor, stopping in front of apartment 3C. He knocked, and moments later, the door opened to reveal a young woman with dark hair and warm eyes that looked remarkably like Luca's. Luca, you didn't tell me you were coming. She pulled him into a hug before her gaze landed on me. And you brought someone. This must be serious. Isabella, meet Ava. Ava, my sister Isabella. The doctor, I said, offering my hand. And you're the woman who slapped my brother in public. Isabella's smile was wicked as she shook my hand. I like you already. Come in, both of you. Her apartment was cozy and lived in, the opposite of Luca's sleek penthouse. Medical textbooks shared space with novels, plants covered every available surface, and photos crowded the walls. So, Isabella said once we were settled on her couch with coffee, tell me everything. How did you meet? What made you brave enough to slap the most dangerous man in the city? And most importantly, how did he convince you to go out with him? I laughed despite my nerves. Your brother thinks a nightclub altercation is the foundation of a lasting relationship. It's unconventional, I'll give you that. Isabella's eyes sparkled. But Luca doesn't do conventional, and he doesn't bring women to meet me unless they matter. So you must really matter. I'm still figuring out what we are, I admitted. She's mine, Luca said firmly. We're just working out the details. Isabella rolled her eyes. Subtle as always, brother. Ava, fair warning. Moretti men are possessive, protective, and absolutely terrible at expressing emotions through actual words. If he's claiming you're his after 2 days, that means he's serious. Probably already planning your future together. Isabella, Luca warned. What? I'm helping. She turned back to me. Look, my brother is complicated. He's done things I don't agree with, operates in a world I want nothing to do with. But he's also the best man I know. Loyal, protective. Would literally die for the people he loves. If he's chosen you, Iva, that means something. No pressure? I said weakly. Bull the pressure. But Isabella was smiling. Someone needs to make my brother happy again. He's been walking around like a ghost for 3 years. Maybe you're exactly what he needs. We spent another hour at Isabella's apartment, and I found myself genuinely enjoying her company. She was warm and funny, completely different from what I'd expected from a Mafia boss's sister. She told embarrassing stories about Luca as a teenager, showed me photos of their family, and made me feel like I was already part of something rather than an outsider trying to find my way in. I like her, I said once we were back in Luca's car, heading toward my apartment. She likes you too. He seemed pleased. Isabella's a good judge of character. If she didn't approve, she would have found a polite way to tell me. Does her approval matter? Everything about Isabella matters to me. He glanced at me. But no. Her approval wouldn't have changed my mind about you. It just makes things easier. We pulled up in front of my building, and the contrast between my modest apartment complex and the places we'd been today was stark. Luca killed the engine but made no move to leave. I should go up, I said, though I didn't want to. Face real life again. Work, emails, bills, all the boring adulting stuff I've been ignoring. Or, Luca said, his hand finding mine, you could ignore it a little longer. Come back to my place, spend another night. Let me cook for you, hold you, show you what being mine really feels like. You're very persuasive. I'm very determined. He lifted my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. But I won't push. If you need space, time to process everything, I understand. Just know that I'm going to be thinking about you every moment until I see you again. The honesty in his voice made my decision easy. I need to feed Mr. Whiskers and grab some clothes. Give me 20 minutes. His smile was devastating. Take all the time you need. I practically ran up to my apartment, my mind racing. This was insane. I was essentially moving in with a man I'd known for 2 days. A dangerous man with a complicated life and enemies who might want to hurt me just for being associated with him. But as I threw clothes into a bag and left food for Mr. Whiskers, I couldn't bring myself to care about the insanity. For the first time in years, I felt alive, excited, desired in a way that made me feel powerful rather than objectified. My phone buzzed. Jenna, I see you're at your apartment for exactly 5 minutes before leaving again. Living dangerously, I see. Maybe I like dangerous, I typed back. Just be careful. And text me every day so I know you're alive. I promise. I grabbed my bag and headed back downstairs, where Luca was waiting. The drive back to his penthouse felt different this time. Less nerve-wracking, more like coming home. Hungry? He asked once we were inside. Always. I set my bag down, suddenly nervous now that we were alone again. I'll make something. Make yourself comfortable. He disappeared into the kitchen, and I wandered to the windows, looking out at the city sprawling below. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number this time. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello, is this Ava Chen? A woman's voice, cold and cultured. Yes. Who is this? Someone who wants to give you some advice, woman to woman. A pause. Stay away from Luca Moretti. He's dangerous, and you're out of your depth. My stomach clenched. Who are you? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're playing with fire, and you're going to get burned. Men like Luca, they don't do relationships. They do possession, and when he gets bored or you become a liability, you'll be discarded. Or worse. Thanks for the concern, but I can make my own decisions. I kept my voice steady despite my racing heart. Can you? Because from where I'm standing, you're a knave girl who slapped the wrong man and now thinks she's special because he's paying attention to you. You're not special, Ava. You're just new, and new wears off quickly in our world. The call ended before I could respond. I stared at my phone, anger and unease warring in my chest. Everything okay? Luca emerged from the kitchen, and something in my expression made his eyes narrow. What happened? I just got a call. Anonymous woman, warning me away from you. Said I was out of my depth and not special. I met his gaze. Who would call me like that? His jaw tightened, fury flashing across his face. Give me your phone. I handed it over, watching as he checked the number, his expression darkening further. Natalia Volkov. Ooh. The wife of Antonio Volkov, head of the Russian organization in this city. He handed back my phone, his hand clenching into a fist. She's been trying to position herself as a potential alliance through marriage since Maria died. I've made it clear I'm not interested, but apparently, she doesn't take rejection well. She sounded pretty confident that you'd get bored with me. She's wrong. He pulled me into his arms. Iva, you need to understand something. I'm 36 years old. I've had casual relationships, meaningless flings, women who wanted my money or power or protection. And I've never brought any of them to meet Isabella. Never introduced them to Mrs. Caruso. Never let them sleep in my home. His hands framed my face. You're not temporary. You're not new that will wear off. You're mine. And everyone in this city is going to learn that very quickly. What are you going to do about Natalia? Make sure she understands the consequences of threatening what's mine. The coldness in his voice sent shivers down my spine. But first, I need to ensure your safety. If Natalia knows enough to get your number, others might too. This is what you meant about becoming a target, isn't it? Reality was setting in. People knowing I'm yours means I'm vulnerable. Less. No sugar coating. Which is why we're accelerating the security measures. Starting tomorrow, you'll have a permanent detail. Not invasive, but present. And your phone, apartment, everything needs to be secured properly. This is really happening. I pulled back slightly. I'm really becoming part of your world. With all the danger that entails, you can still walk away. But his hands on my waist tightened, like he couldn't quite let me go. If this is too much, if you're not ready. I'm terrified, I interrupted. But I'm not leaving. Natalia was wrong about one thing. I'm not naive. I know what I'm getting into. And I'm choosing it anyway. Choosing you anyway. The kiss he gave me was claiming, possessive, full of promises and threats in equal measure. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. Stay here tonight, he said. But this time, stay in my bed. With me. No more guest room. No more pretending this is anything less than what it is. Which is what, exactly? The beginning of forever. He swept me into his arms, carrying me toward his bedroom. If you'll have me. My answer was to kiss him again, pouring every ounce of reckless desire into it. He groaned against my lips, his grip tightening as he shouldered open his bedroom door. The room was masculine and elegant, dominated by a massive bed with dark bedding. He set me down gently, his hands moving to the hem of my sweater. Tell me if you want to stop, he murmured against my neck. Any time for any reason. Your comfort matters more than my desire. But I didn't want to stop. I helped him pull off my sweater, watching his eyes darken as he took in the simple bra underneath. His hands spanned my waist, warm and possessive. You're beautiful, he said simply. Perfect. I'm really not. You are. He silenced my protest with a kiss. And I'm going to spend the rest of the night proving it to you. He did. With hands and lips and whispered words, he mapped every inch of my body like he was memorizing it. When we finally came together, it was with an intensity that stole my breath. A connection that went beyond physical pleasure into something deeper, more profound. Afterward, I lay in his arms, my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. "None." I traced the tattoo on his chest. A family crest, I realized. "You." Only that I didn't meet years ago. His arm tightened around me. "But maybe this is when we were supposed to find each other, when we were both ready." Very philosophical for a crime boss. "I contain multitudes." His chest rumbled with laughter. "Sleep, Ava. Tomorrow we deal with security and Natalia and all the complications. Tonight, just be here with me." I drifted off in his arms, feeling safer than I had in years despite knowing I'd just entered one of the most dangerous situations of my life. I woke to Luca already dressed, speaking in rapid Italian on his phone. His voice was cold, commanding, nothing like the gentle tone he'd used with me last night. I watched him through half-closed eyes, admiring the way he moved with predatory grace. He ended the call and turned, catching me watching. His expression immediately softened. "Good morning, beautiful. Sleep well, very well." I stretched, the sheet slipping down. His eyes tracked the movement, cheat flaring in their depths. "Who were you talking to?" "Marco. Arranging your security detail." He sat on the edge of the bed, his hand finding mine. "And dealing with Natalia. She's been officially warned that any further contact with you will have consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The kind that end with her husband understanding he needs to control his wife or lose his alliance with me." His jaw tightened. "No one threatens what's mine, Ava. Not without paying for it." "I'm really yours now, aren't I?" The reality settled over me. "After last night, there's no going back." "No going back," he agreed. "But that was always true. From the moment you slapped me, you were mine. Last night just made it official." He pressed a kiss to my forehead. "Get dressed. We have a meeting with your security team, and then I'm taking you shopping." "Shopping?" "You need clothes here, toiletries, everything to make this place feel like home. Because as of today, this is your home too. When you're comfortable, we'll transition your things from your apartment. But either way, this is where you belong now, with me." The possessiveness should have bothered me. Instead, it made me feel cherished, claimed in the best possible way. "Okay," I said. "Let's go meet my security team." An hour later, I was sitting in Luca's home office, while 3 intimidating men stood at attention. Marco I recognized from the night at the club. The other 2 were new. "Iva, this is your primary security detail," Luca said, his hand on my shoulder. "Marco, you know. This is Vincent and Tony. They'll work in rotating shifts to ensure you're always protected." "Protected from what, exactly?" I needed to understand. Natalia's phone call was scary, but it was just words. What's the actual threat level? "Right now, low but present." Marco answered. "Mrs. Volkov's call was a probe, testing to see if you'd scare easily. When you didn't, she'll likely escalate. Could be social warfare, spreading rumors, damaging your reputation. Could be more direct. Confrontation in public, attempts to intimidate. And if it escalates beyond that, then we eliminate the threat," Luca said flatly. "But it won't come to that. Antonio Volkov is smart enough to control his wife once he understands the stakes." The stakes being war. One word, delivered with absolute certainty. "If Natalia harms you, I go after the entire Volkov organization. Antonio knows this. He'll handle his wife to protect his interests." The casual discussion of violence should have terrified me. Instead, I felt oddly protected, safe in the knowledge that Luca would burn the world down to keep me safe. "Okay," I said. "So what do I need to do?" "For now, just let us do our job," Vincent said. He was slightly younger than Marco, with kind eyes that belied his intimidating build. "We'll be discreet, but present. You'll get used to us quickly. And if I want privacy, then you'll have privacy," Luca assured me. "They're here to protect you, not spy on you. When you're home, they maintain a perimeter. When you're out, they stay close but invisible unless needed." It was surreal, discussing security protocols like they were mundane details rather than life-altering changes. But this was my life now. The life I'd chosen when I'd chosen Luca. "All right," I said. "Let's do this." The next week passed in a blur of adjustments and revelations. True to his word, Luca had my security detail in place immediately. Vincent became my primary guard, shadowing me during the day while I worked from Luca's penthouse. which had somehow become our penthouse in the span of days. My apartment sat mostly empty now, Mr. Whiskers relocated to his new home with surprising ease. The cat had taken to Luca immediately, which Jenna claimed was proof that my judgment couldn't be trusted since cats were notorious for poor decision-making. "You've basically moved in with a man you've known for 8 days," she said over video chat while I worked on a client's social media campaign. "That's insane, Ava. I know." I didn't disagree with her assessment. "But it feels right, Jenna. He feels right. Right or not, you need to be careful." Her expression was serious. "I did some digging, Ava. Luca Moretti isn't just connected. He's Teach Connection. His organization controls half the city's underground economy. And there are rumors about bodies, about people who crossed him and disappeared. He's been honest with me about what he is." I closed my laptop, giving her my full attention. "I'm not naive about the danger, Jenna. I'm choosing it anyway. Because you're in love with him." Not a question. Was I? We'd only known each other just over a week. But when I thought about Luca, his protective intensity, his unexpected gentleness, the way he looked at me like I was precious, my chest tightened with an emotion I couldn't deny. "Yeah," I admitted, "I think I am." "Then I hope he's worth it." Jenna's expression softened. "Just promise me you'll be careful, and that you'll keep texting me daily so I know you're alive." "I promise." After we hung up, I found Luca in his home office, surrounded by papers and speaking in rapid Italian on the phone. He looked up as I entered, his expression immediately warming. "Give me a minute," he said into the phone, then switched to English. "We'll discuss this tonight. Have Marco prepare the numbers." He ended the call and turned his full attention to me. "Everything okay? Jenna thinks I'm insane for moving so fast with you. She's probably right." He pulled me into his lap, his arms settling around my waist like they belonged there. "This is insane, Ava. Everything about us defies logic and common sense." "But," I prompted. "But I don't care." His hand cupped my face. "I've spent 3 years being careful, being logical, keeping everyone at arm's length. And then you walked into my life and destroyed every wall I'd built. I'm not going to apologize for wanting you, for claiming you, for moving fast. Life's too short to waste time pretending we don't feel what we feel." "And what do we feel?" I needed to hear him say it. "I love you." Simple, direct, devastating. "I've loved you since you slapped me and looked at me like I was just a man who'd crossed a line. Maybe before that, in some cosmic way I don't understand. All I know is that you're mine, Ava. Completely and irrevocably mine. And I'm yours. If you'll have me." Tears pricked my eyes. "That's very intense for day 8. I'm a very intense man." His thumb brushed away a tear that had escaped. "And you're deflecting. Do you love me, Les?" The word came out choked but certain. "I love you, which is insane, because we barely know each other, and you're dangerous and this whole situation is complicated." He silenced me with a kiss, deep and claiming and full of promises. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "We have a problem," he said, his forehead resting against mine. My stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Natalia Volkov isn't backing down. Despite Antonio's warnings, she's been spreading rumors about you, that you're a gold digger, that you're using me, that our relationship is a joke." His jaw tightened. "I've tried to handle this diplomatically, but she's forcing my hand." "What are you going to do?" "What I always do when someone threatens what's mine." His eyes were cold, dangerous. "I'm going to make an example. Fear and something darker. Satisfaction. Ward in my chest. You're going to hurt her." "No." His voice was firm. "I'm going to destroy her socially, financially, every way that matters in our world. By the time I'm done, Natalia Volkov will be a pariah. No one will associate with her, no one will do business with her husband because of her actions. She'll be isolated, powerless, exactly what she tried to make you." "That's harsh." "She threatened you." No apology in his tone. "She tried to scare you away from me, to damage your reputation, to make you feel small. That's unforgivable, Ava. In my world, threats against family have consequences." "Family," I repeated. "Is that what I am?" "You're more than family." He pulled me closer. "You're my future. My partner. The woman I'm going to marry if she'll have me." My breath caught. "Luca, I'm not proposing right now." He clarified quickly. "I know it's too soon, that you need time. But I want you to know my intentions, Ava. This isn't temporary for me. I'm playing for keeps. You're very sure of yourself. I'm sure of us. He pressed a kiss to my temple. Now, let me handle Natalia. You focus on your work, your life, being happy. Let me take care of the darkness. But I didn't want to be protected from the darkness. Not entirely. Can I come to the meeting, when you confront her? Absolutely not. His voice was firm. Iva, what I'm going to do, the things I'm going to say. You don't need to see that side of me. But it's part of who you are. I turned to face him fully. If I'm going to be your partner, your future, I need to understand all of you. Not just the gentle parts you show me. He was quiet for a long moment, conflict clear in his dark eyes. Then, if you're there, you stay quiet. You observe, you don't participate. And if at any point you want to leave, you tell me and Marco takes you out immediately. Agreed. Agreed. The meeting was scheduled for that evening at one of Luca's restaurants. I dressed carefully. Simple black dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. Luca had explained that this was a display of power, that every detail mattered. We arrived to find Natalia already there, sitting at a private table with her husband Antonio. She was beautiful in a cold, polished way. Blonde hair perfectly styled, designer clothes, diamonds at her throat. But when she saw me enter with Luca, her expression twisted with something ugly. Luca, Antonio stood, his voice carefully neutral. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Antonio. Luca's hand on my back was possessive. You know why we're here. My wife made an error in judgment. Antonio shot Natalia a look that promised consequences. She's prepared to apologize. I'm prepared to do no such thing. Natalia's voice was ice. I was simply trying to help a knave girl understand what she's getting into. Be threatening her. Luca's voice dropped to that dangerous register I'd heard on the phone, by spreading lies and trying to damage her reputation. That's not help, Natalia. That's malice. She's not right for you. Natalia's composure cracked. She's nobody. Luca. A freelancer with a cat who lives in a nothing apartment. What can she possibly give you that I couldn't? She gives me herself. Luca's hand tightened on my waist. Honestly, completely, without agenda. She doesn't want my power or my money or my connections. She just wants me. Can you say the same? Natalia's face flushed with rage. You're making a mistake. The only mistake was mine, in not making my position clear sooner. Luca's voice turned colder. So let me be crystal clear now. Ava Chen is mine. She is under my protection, part of my family, off limits to everyone. Anyone who threatens her, threatens me. Anyone who harms her, starts a war they cannot win. Antonio. Natalia turned to her husband. Here you going to let him? Natalia, enough. Antonio's voice cracked like a whip. You have embarrassed me, endangered our alliance, and threatened the peace we've maintained for years. Luca is right. His woman is off limits. You will apologize. Now. I will not. Now. The command in Antonio's voice brooked no argument. Natalia's jaw clenched, fury and humiliation warring in her expression. Finally, she turned to me, her eyes blazing with hatred despite her words. I apologize for my misguided concern. It won't happen again. It better not. Luca's voice was deadly quiet. Because if it does, Antonio won't be able to protect you from the consequences. Am I understood? Perfectly. The word was barely civil. Good. Luca pulled out his phone, typing quickly. Then we're done here. Marco will send you documentation of the social agreements we've discussed. I trust you'll honor them, Antonio. Of course. Antonio stood, his hand clamping on Natalia's arm. Come. We're leaving. We watched them go, Natalia's heels clicking sharply against the floor, her spine rigid with suppressed rage. That was intense. I said once we were alone. That was necessary. Luca turned to face me. How are you feeling? Honestly. Satisfied. I met his gaze. She tried to make me feel small, and you made sure she understood that won't work. Thank you for protecting me. Always? He pulled me into his arms. You're mine to protect, Ava. Now and forever. Forever is a long time. Not long enough. His lips found mine in a kiss that promised exactly that. Forever, no matter the complications. Sex mo ths latar. I stood in Luca's, our, penthouse, watching the city glitter below as the sun set. So much had changed in 6 months. My freelance business had grown exponentially, partly due to my skills and partly due to connections Luca had provided. I'd moved my things fully into the penthouse. which now felt like home rather than his space that I occupied. Mr. Whiskers had gained 5 pounds and developed an unhealthy obsession with Marco, who secretly fed him treats when he thought I wasn't looking. There you are. Luca's arms wrapped around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder. Thought you'd be getting ready for dinner. I am ready. I leaned back against him, just thinking about how different my life is now. Better or worse? Different. I turned in his arms. Complicated, dangerous, intense. But also fuller, richer, more alive than I've ever felt. No regrets. He asked the question he'd asked a dozen times over the past months. Only that I didn't slap you sooner. I kissed him softly. Maybe we could have had more time together. We have all the time in the world. His hand moved to his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Starting with forever, if you'll have me. My breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a ring. Simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the dying light. Marry me, Ava. Not a question, but not quite a command either. Be my wife, my partner, my everything. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, loving you, showing you exactly how much you mean to me. Yes. The word came out choked with tears. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly. Of course it did. Luca was nothing if not thorough. I love you, he murmured against my lips. My beautiful, brave woman who slapped a Mafia boss and changed his life. I love you too. I kissed him deeply. My dangerous, intense man who looked at me like I was precious and made me believe it. We stood there as the sun set completely, the city coming alive with lights below us. This life wasn't what I'd planned, wasn't safe or predictable or anything I'd ever imagined for myself. But it was mine. He was mine. And that was more than enough. So, I said, pulling back slightly, when you say you want me to be your partner, does that mean I get a say in business decisions? His laugh rumbled through his chest. Careful what you ask for, beautiful. You might not like the answers. Try me. I smiled. I think it's time I learned exactly what my future husband does for a living. Brave and reckless. But his eyes gleamed with approval. That's my girl. Our girl, I thought as he kissed me again. His and mine both, building something unexpected, and dangerous and absolutely perfect in its imperfection. I'd slapped a Mafia boss in a nightclub, and he'd whispered a dare that changed everything. Best dare I'd ever accepted.